So, Deborah, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you are a person in demand, so thank you for taking time. We finally get to talk.
Yes.
And it's been a little bit. I've reviewed a number of your films over the years here. So
Yes, but I haven't actually been interviewed by you.
no, no, this is a
Yes.
first. So I was very excited to finally work it out so we could talk because and the reason is because I saw one of the more recent films of yours because you are just a prolific in indie films right now. There's no such thing as zombies. And yeah, and I was happy for this opportunity just to meet you and talk to you because
Oh, thank you.
not just about that, but your other
Yeah,
films, that I've seen you in as well, but,
yeah.
we'll first talk about, No Such Thing as Zombies. There's No Such Thing as Zombies. How did you get involved with that project?
Well, I'm going to answer your question in just a second, but I have
Yeah.
to say,
Uh-huh.
I've become a big fan of yours
Oh.
because yes, yes, because you reviewed Blood Covered Chocolate
Mhm.
and it was a great review. And of course, I shared it on Facebook and Instagram and I was like, this is a really cool review and I love your style. And then you reviewed something else, and then you reviewed There's No Such Thing as Zombies. What was the other thing?
Well, I've reviewed a couple of yours.
Have you?
A while back, you may not have seen it, but a while back I reviewed G-string horror, and
What?
yeah,
I didn't know.
I saw G-string
Oh,
horror.
oh my
Yeah,
God, you have to send that to me.
I can send that
Okay.
to you,
Okay.
and then on my podcast we recently talked about Invisible Maniac as well.
Oh, oh, cool.
So yeah, I've
See, I did not know this.
yeah, and when I was writing a little more regularly for We Live Entertainment, I was doing videos for them. I did a video review. It's no longer up because the channel was taken down, but I did a review of Disciples as well. So
Oh,
so
that film Disciples,
mhm,
I did that back in uh 2012
mhm,
with, Joe Hollow and
right.
that whole cast. Well, he has recut it along
Oh.
with another film that because I was a co-executive producer on
Mhm,
Disciples. And then the film that we did after that, I was a producer and also an executive producer. Oh, the first one, Disciples, I was a co-executive producer. I'm not
mhm.
sure what I said. And then on A Blood Story, I was an executive producer as well as a producer on A Blood Story. Both those films have been recut,
Oh.
and both of those films, yep, and both of those films will be re-released. I'm not sure when, but
Mhm.
in another year or two, soon. I mean, not too far off.
Right.
But so apparently the new cuts of both of those films make both of them, much, much better, cleaner,
Hmm,
tighter. I know Disciples was kind of all over the place. And so there's a lot of stuff that was cut out.
mhm.
And so I haven't seen the new versions of those films, so I'm looking forward to it one of these days. But anyway,
That's exciting. I liked Disciples. I enjoyed Disciples quite a bit. I mean, you had you and a number of other faces of horror
yes.
in that
Yeah,
film.
yeah,
Uh,
everybody was in that.
yeah, Tony Todd, who I love
Mhm.
Tony Todd. I actually saw him at a in a film festival recently, just this past weekend. He was in a film called The Activated Man, and
Oh,
he actually gets to play a good guy.
oh, I love Tony Todd. I get to kill Tony Todd in Disciples. I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember that, but
Yep. Yeah.
that's my horror claim to fame is,
Yeah.
not that many people know that because Disciples was not a wide release.
Right. Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people actually saw it, but I get to kill Tony Todd in a very dramatic way, and it
Yeah.
was really fun.
Yeah, well, he seems fun. I've heard nothing but, like, cool stories about Tony, and I've always liked his work as well as your work whenever, you
Thank you.
show up in indie films. I'm like, "Hey, Deborah's in this. I put this on my watch list for sure."
Oh,
Um
yay! Yeah, and it had Linnea Quigley and Briggs
Oh,
Stevens, Debbie
yeah.
Rochon, and Tony Todd and Camden Toy, and all these people like tons of people. Oh, Bill Moseley.
Bill
So
Moseley,
so
yeah.
I'll be really happy when it gets re-released, and then it will have a better, tighter
Mhm.
version of that film.
Yeah, and that seems to happen a bit in indie films. The one gets released for a while, it goes back, and then you see a recut. I've known a couple of other films that end up happening that too,
Oh, good.
as well. So it's nice. It's interesting to see filmmakers go back and maybe, after a few years under their belt, they go back. You go, man, if I just did this, I would probably improve it. And so, I like seeing that quite a bit. Even though I usually enjoy the originals too. So.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but there's only one cut so far that we know of. There's no such thing as zombies.
There's no such thing as zombies.
Yes, there's no such thing as
There's
zombies.
no such thing. Oh, and I did watch your interview with Michael Haberfellner.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And Michael Haberfellner has been one of my very dearest, closest friends for well over a decade.
Hmm.
And in fact, he lives in Vienna.
Yeah.
And I even went to stay with him for a while out in
Mhm.
Vienna. In 2018, I went out there and I stayed with him for a month. And then I went out to London for 3 weeks to stay with some other people, Eddie Bemeke and his wife. And Eddie Bemeke is the director of
Yeah.
There's No Such Thing as Zombies. And I went out there and I did actually work on something that Eddie was filming. And then I came back to Vienna, and then me and Michael together, we flew to London twice, back and forth and back
Sure.
and forth twice because our friends Stuart and Jen Morris, who are the I guess you call it the directors
Hmm.
of the Misty Moon Film Society, and they were having a big shindig for Lynn Lowry at the Phoenix Arts Club in
Oh.
London.
Hmm.
So we went there for this big party, and then we went back to Vienna. Then we went back out to London because Michael was working on a short film that he wrote, and that Jason Reed and Stuart Morris. Stuart Morris was producing. Jason Reed was directing. It's a short film that Lynn did called "Oh, I'm Ready for My Close Up."
I reviewed that. I've seen it. Yeah.
It was good. It was good,
Oh
right?
yeah. I loved it. It was very Sunset Boulevard-esque. She.
Very, very, very tongue in cheek. It was really cute.
Mhm.
So, since I was staying with Michael and he was going to go to London to shoot that with Lynn and those other guys, they were trying to figure out a way to stick me in there because since I was there, they're like,
Sure.
let's get Deborah Lamb in here. And so Michael and I worked on a little kind of additional character, but
Mhm.
it was just going to make the short film. It was going to make it too long. So
Mm.
then they were like, X-nay on the Deborah Lamb A. And it's like, thanks,
Mhm.
Deborah, but no thanks. So,
Uh,
but it would have made it too long. So, but I
sure.
still went and I was, got together with everybody because,
Mhm.
I was there. So we all had a really good time. But
Y
yeah, so Michael's been a very dear friend of mine. In fact, there's been a couple scripts that we, um, um, like, I not exactly co-write, but we
Mhm.
kind of developed them together and then he would write the script.
Sure.
And there's a few of those out there that will never get made, but they'll
Uh,
never get made, but they were really fun to work on together. We collaborated. And then there's no such thing as zombies. He had already written that,
mm,
I think, before I even knew him. Oh, I
mhm.
remember. And this was part of your show with him, is that he was talking about this short film he
Right.
did. Oh, I don't think it was a short. It was a feature. It was called Conversation.
Mm.
Conversation. I don't know if you actually talked about that
No, I
one.
don't
I
think
know
we did.
he
No, we didn't talk about that one. We talked about
Yeah,
the,
he
yeah.
mentioned it. It was like a one
Mhm.
room film. Everything happened pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
in one
Mhm.
room.
Mhm.
And so he had worked on that. He had already done that one before he and I became friends.
Mm.
And then he was doing the other stuff, the There's No Such Thing as Zombies, which
Sure.
which I heard from him on your interview, he had already had that written, and then he did the add-on with Lynn Lowry
Hmm.
called Talk of the Dead. So they shot that first, and then a couple years later they did shoot There's No Such Thing as Zombies. So I got to go out to London. That was actually my first trip out to London,
Was it
was to
really?
shoot, yeah, was to shoot There's No Such Thing as Zombies with Michael and Eddie Bamiki. And um they had me in a hotel close by where Eddie lives, Eddie
Hmm.
and his wife, and then Michael was just staying with them. And then yeah, we shot it. And yeah, they we shot it primarily in Eddie's apartment. And we had the DeLorean.
Yes, yeah, I was gonna ask you about the DeLorean. How is it you got to drive the infamous, I imagine it is a recreation, but you got to drive the infamous DeLorean and actually like travel in it through special effects, of course, but you got to travel in the DeLorean.
Well, it was an exact replica
Hmm.
of the car.
Right.
And it, I mean, sitting in it was so cool. I mean, it looked exactly what you think it would look like.
Sure.
There was the flux capacitor was right
Yeah.
there, and everything lit up and buzzing. There was some buzzing sounds, and it was really, really cool. And so you know, I shoved it into gear. I got it up to 88 miles per hour, and I went right into the future.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I had some really crazy adventures in the future. And then I came back and I was right back at the moment when they said action.
That worked out well then for you.
It did. It was perfect timing. I timed it just perfect. So they
Uh,
said action, and then, you know, I give my little speech in the car. Let's see if I remember it, because you know, you were talking about how the a lot of the lines were repetitive
right.
in the review, and it's true, they were, because this one line that I said, I think I said, well, I know I said it at least twice.
Hmm.
um we are not here to um something about zombies, we're just here, you know, it was to the effect, we're just here to find, we're to locate them, but we're not supposed to do anything.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it was these couple of inept ZIA agents, Zombie Investigation Association, and I had the badge.
Yeah. You had a badge and everything. And
I had a badge and everything with my picture on it and everything. So, yeah, and then I kind of do this little spiel, but I do say the exact same thing twice in the film.
there's a couple of times. It's all right. I just wanted to see more of your part because I enjoyed that character quite a bit. And your dynamic with your partner as
Yeah, that was
well.
fun.
Though I know that wasn't the focus, but I liked that whole ZIA concept, in fact. I thought that was pretty creative and entertaining. And you looked like you were having fun, and you got to wear a cool outfit too. Your costuming was pretty cool.
Thank
So,
you, thank you, thank you.
uh,
I actually came up with that outfit myself.
oh, you did?
Yes, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I like it. It was very fitting for your role. It kind of like had that little bit of a rogue edge to it. You're a ZIA agent, but you're like, you look like you could just beat up the next person that comes along or a zombie that comes along. So
Yeah, I was the bad cop to
yes,
my other agent's good cop. And then in one scene he's saying that he wants to play the bad cop,
right.
and then I slap him really hard.
Did you actually slap him?
Yes, I did. That was that was improv.
Was
That
it?
was not,
Yeah.
he was caught off guard. Well, you know, I'm in the scene and I'm like, "Yeah!" You know, I'm yelling and I'm like, "Yeah!" And then I'm like, boom. And the poor guy, and I don't think I knew this ahead of time.
Hmm.
He had a really, really bad toothache,
Oh
and
no.
I smacked the crap out of him. And then for one split second, I'm like, "Oh, oh, I hope he's okay."
Yeah.
And but he, you know what? He was such a trooper. He
Mhm.
just went with it, and then afterwards, he's like, "Oh my God, my dad, that's my source inside." She's like, "Oh," he's like, "What did you do to me?" No, he didn't cry. No, it was really funny though. And I'm like, I felt so bad. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, but you know what? Tough it up, Buttercup." No, no, it's "Suck it up, Buttercup,"
Suck it up, buttercup.
because that made that scene better with the smack. So when you hear the slap, there was a loud slap. I think
Mhm.
Michael did kinda add a
Sure.
little extra slap
Mhm.
sound to it, but if he even if he hadn't have added the sound effect, you would have heard it smack. I mean, I smacked him good.
Well, but that did add to the scene. I mean, it
It
was
did.
effective, and it's a comedy, so slapstick is literally slapstick. So there you
Slap.
go.
There you go. There you go. I mean, all we were missing was the pie in the face to the zombie.
There you go. Yeah,
You
pie
know,
in the that
the zombie character could have just got a pie in his face. That would have been perfect.
that would have actually worked. I could see you working a pie in the
That
face.
would have worked.
Yeah.
That would have worked. You know, the one thing in that film that puzzles the heck out of me is towards the end of the film, the husband, the
Yeah.
now husband,
Mhm.
Colin. I forget the character's name, but I think the
Sure.
husband is Colin,
Yeah, it's
and the
Colin.
old
Yep.
old boyfriend, I forget his name, but
Was Paul. Was
oh
I think
god, you have a good memory. So Colin is the now husband,
mm,
and then somehow, and it's towards the end where they're waving around a gun, and somehow he ends up in these hillbilly overalls with no shirt. And I'm like, what the heck is that? What kind of an outfit is that? With no shirt, just the overalls.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, of all the things in this silly movie, that's the one thing that just like that's the one thing that doesn't make sense to me. Everything else is like, sure, okay. The DeLorean, I get it. Yes, we have a the ZIA agents have a DeLorean to drive around in. But the guy in the overalls,
Not quite sure on that one. Yeah, where he got
yeah,
the
I was like, okay, okay,
especially in urban
I
London. That's just not something
don't
you would expect to see someone just pop on.
just
Uh,
just oh, that's so funny. But I have to give Luana,
Mhm.
the lead actress, major props.
Yeah,
She had so much dialogue.
yeah.
I can't believe how she got through all that. I mean, she is on camera like what, 90% of the
Mhm.
time?
Yeah,
I 85, maybe
about that, yeah.
85, 90, 85 to 90%
She's
of the
in
time.
pretty much in all the scenes, yeah.
She's in almost all the scenes,
Mhm,
and, except for just the few that me and my partner are in,
mhm,
but she everything else she's in. And she's like, it's a lot of, like, snappy dialogue with a lot of, like, witty banter,
mm,
and she, and then, Rami Hilmi,
mhm.
the actor who played the zombie, he got off pretty easy, I think. He did a
Yeah.
great job. He did a really great job balancing the,
Mhm.
okay, I'm undead, and I still kind of have an inkling as to kind of sort of what is going on in life, but I'm dead, and all I know is I want to bite somebody. But he's not too overly aggressive, and
Right.
so he's not quite at the real major snappy um symptoms of, full on zombieism. But he does have some scenes where he does talk, in the
Yeah,
beginning, and
at the
yeah, so
beginning,
he
yeah.
has plenty of lines. He has got plenty. But then, but Luana, she like full on dialogue to the whole entire thing, and
Yeah, and very fast delivery too,
yes,
so
very snappy.
I'll actually, be talking to Luana next week, so,
Oh,
we
wonderful.
worked
Yeah, I
out
love
something, so
her.
but yeah, her performance definitely, she especially because 'cause she's gotta interact with both Paul and then Colin and jumping in scenes, and you're right, she's in practically, all the stuff in the house, she's in
Yeah.
every scene there, and, um
And I love the scenes with her and Paul and Colin.
yeah, yeah.
the
Mhm.
the slowly not quite decaying Paul, and then her new husband, and then when the three of them are in scenes together, that's pretty darn funny.
Now
Yeah.
now, most of your stuff was shot separately, correct? You didn't have too much, interaction with them, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while. I watched, like, 15 films this past weekend,
Oh, oh,
at the
gee.
festival. So,
Oh my god. Well,
but,
so
uh,
Lynn Lowry, she did all her stuff
yep.
first.
Mhm.
So all her stuff, I mean, I
Right.
think I don't remember what Michael said. Was there a year or 2
Yeah,
years or
about
in
2 years
between?
because they shot that separately for the concept, uh, which was The Voice of the Dead, yeah.
The Talk of the Dead.
Talk of the Dead, excuse me, yeah.
Yeah, close. Boys talk, you know. Um, but yeah, so then we shot There's No Such Thing as Zombies. I think it was about 2 years later.
Mhm.
So I wasn't there with her, but I did on after that. I'll tell you what we worked on after
Sure, yeah.
There's No Such Thing as Zombies, where Lynn and I did get to work together. Um, but no, I was there. We were shooting all the stuff with Luana
Mhm,
and Rami and Rudolph. We were all shooting all our stuff, at the same time.
mhm.
So I was there pretty much, I think, the whole time they were
Oh, okay,
shooting.
cool.
So, and then me and Scott Hillier,
Mm,
who played Detective or Agent Small,
mhm.
we were all kind of shooting they'd shoot some scenes with them, shoot some scenes with us, shoot some scenes with them. So we were all, intermixed. So we were all there at the same time. So that was fun. And then, me and Scott, we did have a couple scenes where Luana pokes her head out.
That's right, yep, yeah,
Yeah. And then we do have a couple scenes with Rudolph.
mhm.
And so,
Well, that's cool that you got to be there the whole time and kinda
yeah.
see it unfold, so,
And
uh
it was a lot of fun. It was a
yeah,
lot of fun.
it seemed like a lot of fun. It had a lot of there's a lot of fun energy coming out of this film, if nothing else. It, like, seemed like
I know.
everybody was just having a blast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, what would you say, did you have anything that was a bit challenging during your shoot for you? Uh
Um, uh, uh, not particularly,
Mhm,
nothing, out of the
sure.
ordinary challenging. Just, I think things in as far as my recollection
Mm,
goes, things went pretty smoothly. There were no major hiccups,
mhm,
nothing that comes to mind. And, there might have been the normal shooting issues,
sure.
but I
Um,
don't remember anything
mhm,
that like got us off course or made us
right.
get behind schedule. I don't remember anything like that happening. And Eddie is really fun. Of course, Michael was there the whole time.
Mhm,
Michael Haberfellner. And for anybody listening who doesn't know, Michael Haberfellner wrote and produced There's No Such Thing as Zombies, and then a couple other projects too, that I went to London to do with Eddie and
mhm,
Lynn. There's also another film. So after we did There's No Such Thing as Zombies,
mhm,
later that year, I can't remember exactly which month. It could have been maybe June or July. So later that same year, and I think that was 2017. I'm pretty sure.
mm,
And then, yeah, no, 2017. Yeah, that's right. And then I think it was September. They had me go out again to shoot with Michael and Eddie Bemiki, the
mhm.
director, and Luana wasn't on that one, but Lynn Lowry came out, and we shot a really funny little short film called Espresso to Die For.
Well, that
And
sounds fun. Yeah.
it's this group of community theater people,
Mhm,
and Lynn plays the director, the head of the
mhm.
community theater, and then there's these characters that kind of come into the story, and one by one. Well, we have, like, I forget what the name of the espresso machine was called, but it was
Mhm.
like something like the something 2000X,
Sure.
fancy espresso
Yeah.
machine. So it makes the best espresso on the planet. Nothing comes close
Sure.
than espresso made from the 2000 extra fancy whatever. So, everybody comes and they all want the espresso from this machine, and then they get their espresso, and one by one people uh you know find their demise, and and then at the end you learn you know what
The
the heck is going on. There's bodies are piling up. But now on that one there is a funny story, because Eddie Bemeke was directing that, and Michael Haberfellner
Mhm,
wrote it and produced it. And and we had some other really good actors. This one actor who I just adore, his name's Ben Wolf, and
mhm,
he's a London actor. And he's been rising up,
mhm,
leveling up
mhm,
in his career. And I just saw him, I think it was last year, in a movie with Kristen Bell, and it was a really cute movie, and I forget the name of the movie, but it was on like Netflix or something. And there's my friend Ben Wolf, and you can't miss him because he's like a giant. So
sure.
so he's in Espresso to Die For, and so it's really funny. But the one hiccup that happened on Espresso to Die For
Mhm,
is one of the actors, uh, I guess, couldn't make it that day or something. We were missing an actor,
okay,
so Eddie had to jump in and fill whoever it was'
sure.
shoes, and it was perfect. It was great. Eddie was so good in that role. He was so hilarious, and I wish, you know, I keep asking Michael when, and it's a short film, right?
Sure, sure.
So I'm like, when are you going to be able to? It's edited, it's put
Mhm,
together, but it needs some post production
right.
things, like sound quality, and just the post production tweaks to make it look like a real
Mhm.
something. And he's like, well, I just need some more money and I could do it. You know,
The the
that's the
plight of
problem.
the plight of an indie filmmaker, right? We g
Yes, yes, yes.
always about the finance. If there's one consistent thing over the many years I've now been covering indie films, it's always
Ah,
the budget. It's gotta come down to the budget.
it's the never ending flight of, and when you get into, the indie film, when you're at doing indie films, that
Mhm.
they have their own set of problems. But when you get up to a higher level, and then you're working with the studios, there is a whole other bag full of problems.
Well
Then your problems just get bigger and bigger, actually.
well, you've had the pleasure of working on both big studio films as well as indie films over the course of your career. And unfortunately, some of those parts got cut, which is sad because those sound like wonderful parts. Uh,
Yes,
but other parts you were able to make it into, like, was it Point Break?
yes,
So and you've done those along with the indie stuff, along with yeah, and yeah, I mean, and when are we gonna ever see you do fire eating again?
oh, okay. So for those who don't know, early, very, very, very early on in my budding, fledgling acting career, I had the skill of fire eating, and I have a
Mhm,
dance background. I had 7 years of ballet when I was, young,
mhm,
and from 7 to 14, I had ballet. I took all these other kinds of dance, tap, flamenco,
sure.
you name it. I took belly dancing. I took the Hawaiian dancing.
Oh, yeah.
I, for-
Mm,
I can't remember what they call it, but
mhm,
yeah, I did that. So, and I was in some music videos. I was in 4 music videos. One of them was actually just about, I did that video maybe about 4 years ago, 4 or 5. Oh yeah, I think I did that video in 2017, I think.
mm,
And
mhm,
then, but I wasn't dancing in that one, but it was a
sure.
cool video. I played a mental patient, so it
Oh.
wasn't too much of a stretch. And but early on, when I was young and nimble,
Mm,
I did some dance videos. I did one for Ready for the World. The song was My Girlie. I did one for a band called De Crash,
Mhm.
and the song was Was I Good to Ya? And that was a really popular song. And the videos were awesome. Both videos were cool. I did another video. Oh, I did do 4 videos. So I did 5 music videos.
Mhm.
I did a music video for Wendy Mahari for a song called California. And I did, and I did do fire eating in that one. I did
Mhm.
do fire eating in the Crash video, but not in the Ready for My
Sure.
World video or Ready for the
Mhm.
World. And then I did another one for a guy named Leon Silvers called I forget what the song's called,
Mm.
but it was a really nice song. But in that video, he had all these odd couples. So it was
Mhm.
the video took place in a Las Vegas wedding chapel, and all these couples, these oddball couples come in. So you've got the old guy with the
Mhm.
gold digger, and then you got the little tiny short guy, little older short guy with the
Yep.
woman with giant hair and
Mhm.
really, really, really big boobs. And then you've got me. I'm the fire eating bride, and my groom is a firefighter. Yeah, that was so cool. He was in all his
Yeah,
firefighting garb, and I'm doing
sure.
the fire eating. I'm dressed in a white wedding dress. It was
Mhm.
cool. It's really cool. I love that one.
What made
So,
you wanna learn fire eating?
well, I have a friend who actually I'm still friends with.
Mm,
Her name's Hayward.
mm,
And way back when I was really young, I was dancing and
sure.
performing, and she had been a magician's assistant. The magician she worked for was named Willie Wizard, and apparently he was a big regular at the Magic Castle
Okay.
in Los
Mhm.
Angeles. And this is a very long time ago, because when she had been his assistant, that was probably 15, 20 years ago, before I even met her.
Sure.
And so she did a lot of fire eating and kind of fire tricks, because that was part of his show. So she taught me how to fire eat. And then I was doing another show. I
Mhm.
adopted the fire eating, and then I was doing another show, like this video show that they were featuring all these dancers with all their different
Mm.
acts. And this other gal named Lynn Chase, who actually I'm still friends with, she taught me how to spit fire,
Oh, yeah,
where you
yeah,
have
yeah.
the lighter fluid in your
Mhm.
mouth and you spit it out and you make a big flame. So she taught me that part of it. So I learned that from her. So then around that time, I was also getting film work, but like kind of glorified extra type things,
Mm,
glorified
sure.
background, like
Mhm.
featured background things on big movies like Point Break.
Mhm.
So anybody who watches the Keanu Reeves Point Break can see me with curly blonde hair. I was going through my Madonna phase. I had to go, back then, back in the early 90s, she had this platinum blonde,
Yep.
like curly do
Mhm.
thing. So, I copied that. So I was going through my Madonna phase. So you see me in Point Break with this really curly platinum blonde hair, spitting fire. I was, standing there,
Mhm.
because these are the days of film,
Right.
and it's a big camera, and they move everything all around. They have to move the camera and move now they're going to do this angle and that angle. So, I'm hanging out and just standing there in between. And but it was so cool. I got to work right there with Catherine Bigelow,
Mhm.
and Keanu Reeves was standing, and Lori Petty. They're standing right there, right. I'm right next to them, because they come into the party, into Bodie's
Sure.
beach house, to the party. They come in, and right when they come in, I spit fire right in front of their face. And then they're like, "Whoa." And he's like, "Whoa."
Uh,
Or how do you say, you like, "Whoa?"
yeah. Whoa.
How do you
Yeah.
say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, man." So I can't do it. I
No,
can't do it, Keanu Reeves.
no,
Whoa.
Keanu Reeves could do his whoa.
He
I've
can
seen
do
that.
his way.
Yeah.
He didn't actually say "whoa,"
No, no.
but I would have liked it if he had, but
That that would have been great. Yeah.
that would have
Exactly.
been great. So, but in between takes, he was talking to me and he
Mhm,
was saying, "Hey, how do you do that?" And I was telling him, "Well, you got to do
mhm,
this and you got to put your head all the way back and you got to do this and that." So, and Lori Petty was just kind of just standing there. She wasn't really saying anything.
mm.
I mean, but Keanu Reeves was definitely interested. And I'm like, Keanu Reeves is talking to me.
I think I'd be like that. I think if Keanu Reeves was talking to me, I'd be like, "Keanu Reeves is talking to me. This is"
Yeah, but you know what? He wasn't the huge, huge star he is
No.
now.
Right. He was
I
still
mean, he
yeah.
still was because he was in big movies, but he wasn't like now he's like,
Yeah.
you see Keanu Reeves and you see like light coming off of him, like, oh, oh, it's Keanu Reeves. Oh, the angels are singing, you
Mm.
know. So it wasn't quite the same back then. He was
No.
young. He was young Keanu Reeves. But this is my fantasy. This is my fantasy. I'm like praying that this will happen someday. That I'll be somewhere,
Mm.
somewhere that Keanu Reeves will be there. I'll be in the same place as Keanu Reeves, and I will say, I was the fire eater and Point Break. I was the fire eater and Point Break. Do you remember?
Mm. Well, that was cool that he talked to you even back then, though. I mean, he's starring in that bigger picture, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
talking to you about it. So, that's
Yeah,
cool.
he
And
showed interest.
mhm,
I mean, that was pretty much it, and then I
sure,
got back to
yeah.
spitting more fire.
Just
It's
don't
like,
set,
spit that fire."
just don't set him
And
on
then
fire.
and then later in the evening, it got to
Yeah.
be really late, you know? I
Hmm.
mean, we were in Santa Monica, we're shooting at night. It's cold. I'm
Right.
in like a little skimpy something. And because back in those days, I was always in a little skimpy something. It was always something skimpy.
Mm.
And, finally I actually walked up to Catherine Bigelow because I didn't know who else to talk to. And I said,
Sure.
do you still need me? I was afraid to talk to her. I'm like, and she's like, yeah, hang around, hang around. And I'm like, um, will I get paid? And she's like, yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I don't want to talk to the director like that. I don't want to
Yeah.
say. So, but I didn't see any PAs around to
Sure.
ask.
Sure.
Anyway, I think she gave me, exception because,
Hmm.
with the curly blonde hair and the fire eating, she probably could have assumed I was special needs.
No, I think it's just you had the little extra talent that elevated you among the other extras
Yeah,
because you're actually
among
blowing
the other
fire.
extras.
Yeah.
No, but she wanted me to stick around, so I did.
Sure.
And then they shot all the beach stuff,
Mhm.
and then they were shooting like another scene with Patrick Swayze in like another scene. And so another part of that like house
Right.
set.
Mhm.
I mean, it was a house, but it was like kind of an outdoor house. So then I was just sitting. There was nothing for me to do, or I mean, there was really nowhere for me to go. So I just kind of sat in the back, just up on some whatever I was sitting on. I was just in the back, and I was far away. I wasn't close to them,
Sure.
but they were doing their scene. And then Patrick Swayze looked right at me, and I was like, I'm like, am I okay? Am I supposed to be here? And I just kind of went, you know, I'm like,
Mm.
I'm not bothering anybody, I don't think. And so anyway, but that was my big story.
Mhm.
I gotta tell you, I mean, I have to say, I'm really happy with the direction my career is going.
Mhm.
I'm working very hard to become more and more selective. And as much as I love working on films that are, really low budget and
Mhm.
just fun to do, like There's No Such Thing as Zombies was definitely fun to do. And Michael's like one of my very best friends.
Sure.
And I would do anything for him. But we did shoot that film like 6 years ago.
Right, yeah.
So a lot has happened in my
Mhm.
career since 6 years ago. But but yeah, but in my early days, so even though I'm feel like I'm elevating my career, now,
Sure.
I've got this great film that's going to be coming out later this year called Finding Nicole that I shot a couple years ago.
Mm,
But it's a
mhm.
great true crime drama or thriller about domestic violence,
Mm,
and it's based on a real woman, Nicole Beverly, and she wrote a book, and she was on a lot of like news outlet
sure.
things or news shows, and talking about her story. And so, Finding Nicole is, of course, based on her real story,
Mhm.
and Katie Wallen, who's a friend of mine. She's the lead actress in that, and she's already won a
Oh.
bunch of Best Actress
Mhm.
awards. And I played her mother in the film. And we are all actually about in a few weeks, we're going down to, well, not down, but
Sure.
over, for me, over, we're going over to Oklahoma to the Sunny Side Up Film Festival, and I will finally get to see it. And
Oh, that's great. That's
we'll get to
great.
see it on the big screen.
Mhm.
Harley Wallen, who's Katie Wallen's husband,
Right.
he's the director, and
I
he will.
I was just gonna ask if he directed it because 'cause I'm familiar with their work, so I was like, "Oh,
Yes, yeah.
yeah."
Well, they are a producing duo,
Okay. Mhm.
and they're a powerhouse team,
Mhm.
and so they've both been in all the films that they produced. But depending on, they're sometimes they're in smaller roles,
Sure.
sometimes
Yep.
they're in bigger roles, just depending on what the film
Mhm.
is. So Katie had the chance to be the lead in Finding Nicole, and she plays Nicole,
Nicole,
the
right, sure.
real Nicole.
Right.
So that's going to be coming out, I think, later this year. So that's really cool. But early in my career, when I was pretty much just starting out, I got to work on some cool films with big stars,
Mhm.
and I did work on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which you were referring to. And I
Yeah.
did get to do a big scene with John Candy and Steve Martin. And that was the thrill of a lifetime, a thrill. And then I got cut out. And then I was like, I got invited to a screening at Paramount. And then at the screening, there was an editor that was
Mhm.
sitting behind me, and he said, I was invited to come,
Right,
and there
sure.
was a one sheet and with everybody's name on it, and my name was on it, and I still have it. I
Oh, you
have it.
still have it? Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
yes, I have it. So, the editor behind me said, "Hey, I recognize you. You were really funny. You were so funny. That was such a funny scene." And I was like, "Oh, cool, thanks." And so I was like, "Oh, good, I didn't get cut out. Yay." So, we're
Sure.
watching, my then
Mhm.
boyfriend was with me, and we were watching, and my scene would have been toward the end.
Right.
And then that part just came and went, and that scene wasn't there. And I was like, "What?" And so after
Yeah.
the film, the editor behind me said, "I'm so sorry. When I was working on it, your scene was in it. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that you got cut out." He was felt bad for me. So, I was okay till I got to the parking lot, and then I was like, tears, tears.
Aw.
But I got to work with on Out Cold. I got
Mhm.
to work with Terry Garr, John Lithgow, Randy Quaid, and I was talking to all those
Sure,
guys.
sure.
They were really friendly, really nice, and I was just basically a glorified, featured background
Sure.
person, but they loved me, so they wanted me to stick around, but
That's
I
good.
couldn't because I had
Yeah.
another gig that I had to go to, like, the
Sure.
next day, and they were like, "Please, please stay, another day," and I'm like, "I can't." I should have stayed. I
Yeah.
should have stayed because the thing I left for turned out to be like, ugh, disaster. I was like, ugh. But, anyway, but to fast forward to today, um, I've done a lot of really fun things like The Invisible Maniac
Yes.
that
Yes.
you
With
mentioned.
that wonderful hair of the '80s.
I had the 80s hair. I had big 80s hair for
You did.
several films. I had the 80s hair in Beverly Hills Vamp and The
Uh-huh.
Invisible Maniac and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Oh, there was this film I did called Warlords. with
Hmm.
John Carradine. Fred Olin Ray directed that.
Yep, I
Fred
know.
Olin Ray also directed Beverly Hills Vamp, and I did one more with him called Mob Boss.
Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't have really big 80s hair in Mob Boss. I had a different haircut, but yeah, so it was really, fun stuff, fun stuff. I've done a lot of fun stuff. And, even though it's like, of course, anybody would want to have the kind of career where they start out young and they, work themselves up in television and things like that. And they're young and they are able to, work up the ladder. And then by the time they're teens or young adults, they're doing big films.
Hmm.
It would have been, anybody's dream to be able to do that. But, because this business is just so hard,
Yeah.
so hard. It's
Hmm.
so hard. And it doesn't matter who you are, it's hard. But when you at least get in mainstream things,
Hmm.
or people see you, when you're in indie films, you get known, you can get very
Sure.
known in the indie
Right.
community.
Hmm.
Um, but that doesn't necessarily take you, you can be an indie star kind of,
Hmm.
but that doesn't necessarily take you from that to the other thing. It doesn't necessarily put you like, oh, okay, now you can go and do big budget films. You can, but you're probably going to be background.
Sure. Sure.
Oh, well, not necessarily true. I mean, there's a lot of success stories. It's just very, but you have to love it. That's the
Hmm.
thing. You have to love what you're doing. Whether you're working on some little thing like Espresso to Die For, which is actually really funny. I don't know if anybody will ever see it, but it was fun. And then you work on, these, all sorts of different films, but it's when you have that passion and love for film, you just love doing it.
And I think that passion comes across in the performances, and you definitely seem to have the passion for film. Obviously for doing it for so long, doing so many different things in it too. I mean, you as you mentioned, executive
Yeah, yeah,
produce. You've helped write a couple scripts.
yeah.
I say you were a casting director for a couple. I mean, you've
Oh yeah, I'm very good at that. I've
Mhm.
gotten so many friends jobs.
Sure. You know,
Yeah, and sometimes somebody will ask me to do a role and
mhm.
I don't do it for whatever reason,
Right.
and I will find them somebody to replace me. I say, "You know what? You know who would be perfect? So
Sure.
and so." And then I get them that person. So I'm very good at that.
But and I think though that like you were mentioning, there's so many of those stories though where even those that do make it big, as you were mentioning, that kind of climb the ladder, sometimes they just disappear after like one or two big films, so that you don't
Yes.
see them anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where I think one of the things that I've fallen in love with the indie films is one, a very devout fan base.
Yes. Yes.
One fans who enjoy indie films and will go see pretty much any indie film, even if they don't think it might be that great. They'll still go see it to support it
They will.
and see if it bucks their expectations. But especially nowadays with so many venues out there to possible, opportunities to create content. I think that the indie scene is more fitting than the wide release scene in many respects, because you can find those niche. There's a lot more niches, it seems like now, than the big screen, because the big screen everybody seems to be kind of turning away from them.
Well, and if you're referring to the big screen as the films in the theater,
Right. The
yes,
wide,
you're
yeah.
absolutely right. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things streaming. There's all sorts of different kinds of movies.
Right.
There's something for everybody, in all sorts of different levels of budgets, high, low,
Mhm.
medium, whatever. But you are very correct. The indie the indie fans, the indie crowd, they for the most part, they really
Right.
support each other. I have so many friends that would support me no matter what I did. You know, they come out to rah, rah, rah. And I'm that way. I rah, rah for my friends. You know, I'm a big supporter to my friends, you know,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter if they're doing some cheesy little movie or some bigger budget movie. I'm still like, yeah, go, go, you know, and I love doing that for my friends. And yeah, so I'm really fortunate to have so many loyal followers and friends, and you know, that just cheer me on. And like last year I didn't do anything. I
Mhm.
had a full year that was expected to be busy last year.
Sure.
And once it got to May, it was very apparent that the projects I was supposed to do just were not going to happen. It didn't look,
Right.
I mean, as the year went
Mhm.
on, it's like, okay, this is just not happening for this year. But now this year, it's like everything is happening. So I'm like, I'm like too busy. I'm,
Sure.
you know, because I am a producer on Vampire Penance, The Atonement
Mhm.
of John Wolfe, with my friend John Rain, who's directing. He directed and produced and writing, and he has also a partner
Mhm.
named Mark Weiss. And so we're they're doing an Indiegogo, but they're not dependent on the Indiegogo because they have a lot of investors coming on. But then I'm working on Shadows of the Night that I'm a producer on. Plus, of course, I'm in these things too. And on
Sure.
that one, we're having a phenomenally successful Indiegogo. And we've got some great people on board. I've got Harley and Katie Wallen on board, Shadows of the
Nice.
Night. I
Mhm.
got them. I have my friend Jeff Berry, who also works on a lot of Harley and Katie's films, and they're all in Michigan. And so my friend Jeff Berry is a part of it. He's playing a character, plus he's going to be the unit production manager. So I've got those guys, and we've got Bill Oberst Jr., and we've got some other really amazing people. So it's very cool. But you know, it's a lot of work
Sure.
getting the financing for these
Mhm.
films. It's a constant challenge.
Yeah, that always seems to be the challenge. But what I like about that's one of the things I like about indie films, though, is the fact that you work with a smaller budget, so you almost have to get more innovative. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times you get smarter filmmaking because I think bigger budgets and the digital age have
Oh
made
God.
studios a bit lazy in some respects. Because as you mentioned, you know, with shooting with film, I mean, you've through your career, you've seen the transition go from the big film cameras to now they're shooting on digital to where they can just keep shooting and not really worry about if it's good or not because digital is cheap uh, versus
We'll
film.
fix it in post. We'll
Yeah,
fix it in post. Famous
you
last
know,
words.
right.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, yeah, and I went through the film age
mhm,
into the home
video,
video,
yeah.
the video home, whatever they call it.
Mhm,
Um, there's a phrase. What is it?
right,
The home video
oh, the
market?
shot on video, yeah, the shot on video stuff, the
Well, yeah,
home video
and then
market, yeah.
that's it. Home
Mhm,
video market. That's
mhm,
what you call it. And then there was a lot of stuff that was actually shot on video, which
right.
was the worst. And then not good, not good. And then but now, you know, and then at first when everybody was shooting on digital, it wasn't it just didn't look like
Right.
great. You know,
Mhm,
now the cameras are good. Now
right.
you have almost film quality with a digital camera. So
Mhm,
that's nice. And now you can have your independent filmmakers use these good cameras, these
right.
good digital cameras, and get studio quality.
Mhm,
So you're right. You're right. And you're also right in saying that you do have to get more
yeah. You know,
innovative.
I always wanted to see like a TV show or something where they take a big named you know director like Steven Spielberg or you know so Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, give them a budget of like here's $10,000, make a movie. Yeah.
You know what? You know what? I think Robert Rodriguez could do it.
Oh yeah, Rodriguez. Out of all of them, I bet Rodriguez would be like, oh yeah, no
He
problem.
could do it. He could do it. I think Quentin Tarantino could do it
Yeah.
too. I
Yeah.
just don't think he would want to. There's
No,
no
he
reason
yeah.
for him. He's ready to retire. He's got one foot into retirement. So
Yeah, he's got his last film he's working
his
on,
last
so
film, The Last
yeah.
Hurrah. We'll see if that's true, but
It yeah,
he's had a good run. He's had a good run.
he has. It's definitely a unique filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I've always liked his stuff quite a bit. I know
Yeah.
it's a little divisive, but I've enjoyed his work quite a bit. As much as
I'm a
I've
fan.
I am. Who would you say? I mean, because you've been in the business, you've had a lot of great experiences, but who would you say
Yeah,
maybe
I'm old now.
well, I
No,
wasn't saying
no,
that.
I'm joking, but I have been around for quite a while.
I was just wondering who is your influence and did your influences change over the course of your career so far, over versus when you first started? Who would you say would be some of your influences?
Well, my influences have definitely changed
Hmm.
from time to time
Sure.
because, I started, I actually started pretty much right out of high school,
Hmm.
but I didn't actually get into, I was taking acting classes and I was doing some acting, but it wasn't anything that was like in feature films, it
Sure.
was
Hmm.
just like video acting, these short films like I did do some very good student films when I
Hmm.
first started out, some really good ones. But then there was these other ones that were kind of like student films, but they weren't like something you could see
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
They came
Yeah.
out somewhere. But my influences when I was in my 20s was definitely,
Hmm.
way different than my influences now. Just because of whatever my age was,
Hmm.
I would gravitate towards filmmakers and actors and actresses that were relevant to me at that
Hmm.
time. Or, I remember though when I was in I think it was probably my mid 20s, my favorite movie was The Piano
Oh
with
yeah.
Holly Hunter.
Hmm.
I loved The Piano. I adored The Piano. So, and I was in SAG, and I was part of the SAG Film Society at the
Sure.
time. So I would get tickets to go
Mhm.
to see the movies at the Directors Guild Theater. And I was a film snob, even though the films I was doing were like,
Sure. Sure.
you know, like little B movie
Sure.
comedy horror, horror comedies,
Hmm.
So even though I was doing those films, I was a film snob. I was like, I want to do films like The Piano. And so I've never done a film like The Piano,
Hmm.
not yet anyway. I still would like to, but
Sure.
but then as time went on into my 30s and 40s,
Mhm.
especially in my 40s, I just really started enjoying personally, really started enjoying just comedies and just
Mhm.
action. And so, my focus went from, wanting to do art, art, got to do, I'm an artist. I'm an artist, damn it, into
Sure.
liking films like Beer Fest and
Sure.
Grandma's Boy and, all those films. I love those films. Just, raunchy comedies and,
Mhm.
now I'm in a phase where I just love anything Jason Stamos. I'm sorry, Statham.
Oh, s
Anything
so
where Jason Statham is in, anything.
so you like The Beekeeper then?
Oh my God, I loved it. I had a big old thing of popcorn. And I'm like eating my popcorn and I'm like laughing and he's killing all these people, he's kicking ass, he's going through all the things. And I'm like, I was having a ball. I was just having so much fun watching him do his thing. And so, yeah, so my taste just very, very, but I adore like Emma Stone. I adore Helen
Mhm.
Mirren, and
Mhm.
I adore actors and actresses of all different ages. But, I'm happy to see, I really love, oh gosh, some of these people I know who they are and I can't think of their names on the spot, but so many people
Mhm.
who are older, like
Sure.
older
Mhm.
female actors, like
Mhm.
Helen Mirren and oh, and
Yeah.
what's her face,
Yeah.
and
Ja
all the
Jamie
what's her
Lee
face.
Curtis and
Yeah,
those, yeah.
just
Um
those age ranges, those really appeal to me because it's my
mhm.
age range.
Sure.
And Michelle Yeoh and
Yeah.
all those people and I love it when they end up in films like Michelle Yeoh does it a lot. Ends up in films where they're kicking ass.
Yeah.
And, and in fact, the film that I'm going to be doing, probably the end of May or maybe
Mhm.
June, the Vampire Penance film.
Mhm.
I'm going to be kicking ass. I'm going to be
Sweet.
an
Very
ass
nice.
kicking vampire hunter, and I'm going to be
Fantastic.
riding a Harley. So
Gonna get a little bloody, probably.
yeah, yeah, because I'm going to be
You're gonna be
getting my
stabbing vampires, you gotta
I'll be
get a little
stabby,
blood, but
stabby. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you gotta get
So,
stabby, stabby.
but I
Um,
have, I'm more, I feel more excited about my career now
mhm.
than ever in my career. Except for the time I was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I thought it was going to be my big break
Sure.
because
Mhm.
I was in this really hilarious scene with Steve Martin and
Mhm.
John Candy, and I'm like, yes, this is gonna make me,
Yeah.
baby. I'm so And then, of course, and then I'm not in it. And I'm like,
Uh,
oh,
well,
ugh,
I mean, we're seeing that now. People have talked about it with the studios shelving films that will never get seen. It's
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Batgirl, there was so much hype about, the actress that's going to be kind of the big role for her. I mean, it looked like it was going to be
yes,
a big role. It looked
yeah.
like it was going to be an interesting movie, and they completely shelve it and then delete it and wipe it from existence, supposedly. That,
Wow. I mean,
like,
how god awful does that film have to be for them to do that? Because of all the stuff they release, a
right.
lot of the stuff they release is like shit.
Yeah, that's
And
what
then,
yeah. It can't be any worse than some of the
and then
other things they release.
how bad does it have to be? I mean, what the hell is in that movie?
Unfortunately, we won't know now. I
We
think
won't
a very
know. We won't. But see, this poor actress. It's like, can you imagine being the lead in a big, huge, mega budget
yeah,
film, and then they scrap the whole thing?
right. So, we see that even today, and it's kind of sad because I think you miss out, like you said, you possibly miss the opportunities for more people to see that material where you did really good in it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, for whatever
yeah,
reason, studios feel the need to cut, and you're just like, but and then you hope for a director's cut at some point. That would have been great to have a
yeah,
Planes, Trains,
yeah.
and Automobiles director's cut for you. But
Well, when they came out with the re-release of the
sure.
4K Blu-ray,
Hmm.
I had hoped that my deleted scene was in there because
Oh,
they
yeah.
were advertising they had deleted scenes in there.
Hmm.
And I was so excited. And I was like, "Oh, here's my chance." Oh, but it wasn't in there.
Mm.
No, it wasn't in there. But I have two people, I've told this story before. I have two people who told me years apart, both happened in Canada, and they saw it at totally years apart, different times. Two people tell me they saw me in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The one guy said, oh, on TV in Canada. Both of
Huh.
them said it was in Canada on TV. Just a couple years ago, I had a filmmaker contact me and
Sure.
said, I didn't know you were in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I said, oh, well, I was, but I got cut out. He says, no, I just saw you on TV. I just saw it. He
So
said, "Are
there's a
you
cut out there somewhere with you
Yeah,
in it.
there's a cut out there, but I've had people
Mm.
try to he tried to contact the TV station, but he
Sure.
didn't get anywhere.
Mm.
But he was playing pool at some place, sports bar or
Yeah.
whatever. They have Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on. He sees my scene. He describes the scene to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's the scene. That is it. And a girlfriend of mine, Michelle Ness, she saw me like a decade before I ever met
Mhm.
her, and she remembered me from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So when I worked with her on her short film, she had told me the story. She saw me on TV and she videotaped it off the TV
Oh,
with
wow.
me in that version,
Uh-huh.
and it was in a box that got flooded in somebody's
Oh,
basement. So I'm like, God, so close,
so
so close, yet so
close.
far away. It's like, oh
But
my God. But
but you've had, it sounds like you've still had some wonderful experiences. Obviously,
yeah,
I mean, challenges, but also some wonderful experiences. And
yeah,
you're in your career today because you love it, and
yeah.
people are loving it. I love seeing you on screen, and I'm not just saying that
Thank
because you're
you.
here.
Thank you.
I think you bring a lot of energy to your roles. And so it still works out. I mean, I don't want to keep you too much longer.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I gotta get going.
I know you're busy.
I've had people try to contact me. I'm like, I'm swiping
So
it off my screen. Okay, I'll get to you later.
so I don't want to keep you too long, but I would just say, uh, you know, what advice, and I'm sure you've got this question before, but I'm curious the answer. What advice would you have for a young actress out there who is starting to do indie films? Like something, some advice that you would give them starting out.
Well, first of all, I always advise, but there's so many actors out there that have had no training and they're amazing actors.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore, she never had training. A lot of other people, a lot of other actors. But I always recommend my advice,
Mhm.
get training, get in an acting class, get in a scene study class, get training. And then, of course, you have to start from the bottom. So you got to work for free, do student films, do anybody in your area your city, get online, get on the casting sites,
Whoops. Yeah.
casting networks, Actors Access,
Mhm.
get on all of those things, do student films. There are brilliant student films. I've been in a couple brilliant student films that were just beautiful. So, do that. You got to, pay your dues. Don't have a big head. Don't think because somebody made you the lead role in some ultra low budget film
Mhm.
that now you're a big star, because no, you're not, honey. You're not. And and be a team player
Sure.
and make your dues,
Mhm.
work up the ladder. Don't think you're going to start like you're
Right.
not even going to start at the middle, at the beginning. Everybody
Mhm.
has to take baby steps, and be patient. And this is my other piece of advice. If there's anything, I mean, anything,
Mhm.
anything you'd rather do that. Do that. Do the other thing. Don't get into acting unless you have to, because
Right. You
you have
love
no
it, right.
choice.
Mhm.
Have no choice. You have to do
Right.
it.
Well,
So,
this has been a pleasure, Deborah. Everyone, check out There's No Such Thing as Zombies. It's out there on streaming now, and all of Deborah's other work. Very talented individual. I'm happy we finally get a chance to chat.
yeah,
Uh,
look me up on IMDb, everyone. Look me up on IMDb. You can check out my movies. If you have IMDb Pro, look me up on IMDb Pro, because then that way you can see the movies that I'm attached to, that are in development, that are in pre-production, that are filming. Um, and also tell me about the nachos.
the nachos,
The
okay.
nachos, the tickets. Do I
Yeah,
like it more than my nachos? How does it go?
it's well, okay. Well, I like nachos, and I just kind of threw that in as a gimmick. A lot of
Well,
people
who
liked
doesn't?
it, so I kind of roll with it. But yeah, if it's middle, I guess the equivalent would be, I never really came up with a scale, but I would say if it gets, 3 out of 5, I enjoyed the movie as much as my nachos.
Okay,
Anything less than a 3, it really depends on the nachos, but usually I'll be enjoying the nachos
more.
more than the movie. And then if it's above 3, 3.5, then I'm enjoying the film a bit more than my nachos. So
So
that's the thing.
how do you phrase that at the end of your reviews? You say, I give it a something,
Oh,
and
I give it a 3.5 stubs, and I enjoyed it as much as my nachos, or
ah,
you
yeah,
know,
that's it. That's
yeah.
it. Or you'll
So
say, I enjoyed it more than my nachos.
right, exactly. So, you could
Now,
either go by the stub rating or the nacho rating.
the
Uh,
stub
you know,
rating. So you give a stub rating and a nacho rating.
usually, yeah, I
I
tried if
I
I had
see.
nachos during a film, which I usually do. So that's the secret. There you go, folks. The veil pulled behind the nacho rating.
Now, what if it just happens to be extra good nachos with like jalapenos on there and
Oh yeah.
triple the cheese, and then the movie, it's not fair because then you will like the nachos better.
But
So
the movie has a little bit more to live up to that. Yeah, a little more of a
there you go.
fight. It has a
There
little
you
bit
go.
more of a fight. So, but thank you. I'll put links to your IMDb and other links down in the body message of this podcast. Folks, check out Deborah Lamb and all her stuff. Thank you, Deborah. This has been very much
Thank
a
you. I
pleasure.
I had a ball. I had a ball. Thank you for having me
Fantastic.
on.
You bet.